You're good. You're good to begin.
All right, very good. My my view just changed. I can't see the attendees, but you can let them in, Alana.
Yes, I can. You should be able to pull over your screen so that you can see them. If you move over the shared agenda screen, you should see them on the right-hand side come in, at least your council members. And then you should be able to click on your participants at the bottom, which will give you the attendees.
Participants. Okay, there we go.
Are you okay?
I'm good. Okay. Perfect. Okay, Bridget is listed right now as an attendee. That's all right. She's not a panelist. Is that meant?
That is okay.
Okay, very good. Okay, we'll now resume our regular council meeting. There was no report from closed session. First, though, I'd like to acknowledge and have a moment of silence in regards and recognition of our former Reeve and Warden, Dave Nelson. Dave served 44 years on municipal government between Etonnebee South Monaghan and his time there, as well as his participation and involvement at County Council. So Dave passed away last week. There was a procession through Lang Pioneer Village in honor of Dave, and our township has been flying our flags at half-mast since we were made aware. So in recognition of the passing of Dave Nelson, I'd ask that we all take a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. It's Dave will certainly be remembered by anyone that had worked with him. He was always a calming voice around the county council table discussions, and certainly brought a lot to not only Peterborough County and Etonnebee South Monaghan, but the region as a whole for his many years of involvement. So certainly our appreciation goes out to Dave and his family. We'll now move into our public meeting. So I need a resolution to move to open the public meeting. Deputy Mayor Graham and Councillor Moore. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
I don't see Councillor Belch on my screen.
Belch. Seems that we have lost him. Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed. Item 8.2, report planning 2020-26, proposed housekeeping zoning bylaw amendment regarding the Ebenezer Cemetery. Ms. Ellis?
Thank you, Mayor McFadden, members of council, members of the public. The purpose of today's public meeting is to hear comments about a proposed housekeeping amendment to change the zoning on two pieces of property. The first property is located at 115 Stewart Line and part of Lot 2, Concession 11 of the Cabin Ward. And the other property is known municipally as 52 Sharp Line and part of Lot 1, Concession 11 of the Cabin Ward. When we were reviewing an application or an inquiry, we noticed that the zoning for the Ebenezer Cemetery was located on the wrong property. Subsequent to that, one of the landowners had inquired about building a new building on their property, and because of the incorrect zoning, the township was unable to issue a building permit in the location for which they wanted that building. So staff have initiated a zoning bylaw amendment to correct the error. So the zoning bylaw amendment before you today, that's represented by bylaw number 2020-52, will change the zoning on Schedule A, Map B-1 of the Township of Cabin Monaghan zoning bylaw number 2018-58 as amended. So again, the purpose of the change in the zoning is to correct the zoning. So we'll change the zoning on one of the properties from institutional to agricultural, and then we'll change the zoning at 52 Sharp Line from agricultural to institutional. So there will be no real change in land use. The Ebenezer Cemetery is a historic cemetery. It's no longer active. It is maintained by the township, and the tombstones are all aggregated together in one platform. So as I said, there's no change in land use. This is just merely a correction in the mapping. As required by the Planning Act, notice that this application was circulated by first-class prepaid mail to all assessed persons within 120 meters of the subject properties, to all required ministries and agencies, and we circulated it internally as well. To date, we've heard internally, there's no objections from staff of the township. We've heard from Peterborough Public Health that they have no objection to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. We heard from the Otonabee Region Conservation Authority that they are of the opinion that the zoning changes are consistent with section 3.1 of the provincial policy statement referencing natural hazards. And they're also of the opinion that the proposed changes are consistent with sections 2.1 and 2.2 of the provincial policy statement and conform to section 4.2.3 and 4.2.4 of the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. They've also confirmed that the application was reviewed in consideration of the Trent Source Protection Plan, which was prepared under the Clean Water Act, and the subject lands are not located within an area that is subject to the policies of the Source Protection Plan. And lastly, we've heard from Enbridge Gas that they have no objection to the proposed application. The application has been reviewed under the current policies of the Township's official plan, Peterborough County official plan, the growth plan, and the provincial policy statement, and staff are of the opinion that the application does conform to that policy framework in place at the time. And in this regard, we're recommending that council review and consider all public and agency comments received to date regarding this application. And secondly, that bylaw number 2020-52 be approved.
Very good. Do we have any questions from members of council? Welcome back. Councillor Belch is there. I can see Councillor Huntley, Councillor Moore, and Deputy Mayor Graham. Any questions?
No.
Councillor Huntley? You are muted.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair, I see on the map on page 12, like where the zones are kind of changing, and it's mapping out where the zones are changing. The next map, I think it is, whoever's working the
Yep, page
screening.
12. Page 6 of the report, page 8 of the report, page 12 of the agenda.
Correct, yeah. Like the area of this cemetery looks a lot smaller than the area that was originally mistaken as a cemetery. Are we just bringing it in line, Ms. Ellis, or are we actually reducing the size of it as well? Like those two squares are obviously much different shapes.
Through you, Mayor McFadden, to members of council, yes, there is a difference in size in terms of what the zone boundaries will be. So the boundaries of the area to be zoned institutional are based on air photo mapping, and it represents the area that is used and maintained as the cemetery. The difference in size probably relates to the area shown on the air photo originally, and with the mistake, it's what is proposed today with this zoning bylaw amendment accurately reflects the existing boundaries of the Ebenezer Cemetery.
Okay.
Very good. Further questions from members of council? Okay, seeing none, we do have some attendees, so I will now go to the participants. Attendees, we have 4, so I will simply ask, first one has the screen name of MALS. I'm going to allow you to talk if it's with concerns to this application. Go ahead. If you could identify yourself with your name and your address. Again, it's a panelist with the screen name MALS. Okay, I'm
Hi, Mayor
assuming.
McFadden. It's Norm Lamont. I think you might have just activated my screen for comment. I have no comments with respect to this proposal.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. Yes, I'm trying to get the other one. Okay. Try that again. All right, to Alana, I am clicking on Mal's and it just says ask to unmute.
So it's likely that they have their own screen muted. You could ask her to raise her hand or his hand if they're interested in speaking.
Okay. So to the screen user MALS, I've unmuted you, but you might be muted on your end. If you do wish to speak, there is an option there. Okay, there you go. It looks like Mal's is available. Go ahead. Mal's, if you could state your name and your address. Okay, we can't hear you, so I'm not sure whether you are speaking and you're having problems at that end, but you are unmuted on our end and on your computer.
Mayor McFadden, I believe you're still trying to access my computer.
Have you logged in twice?
No, I've only logged in the one time.
Huh. Okay, no, I see you. Okay, I see you. Okay, I just unmuted Norm again, and Bridget is muted. MALS was open, now it's closed again. Okay. And has just left the meeting. Okay. All right, so there is no comments to be made with regards from the public on this application. So with that, then consideration of the report before us, council. Do I have a motion to receive the report? Accept the recommendations. Deputy Mayor Graham, Councillor Moore, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is carried. Can I get a resolution to close the public meeting? Deputy Mayor Graham, Councillor Huntley, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed. Okay, now we will be moving into our delegations, item 9.1. So I am unmuting Norm. Okay, Norm, I believe you're available. 9.1, Woodley Farms Limited, Norm Lamoth, leaf and yard waste diversion opportunity. Norm, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mayor McFadden. Good afternoon, everyone, and councillors and members of the public. Thank you for hearing our proposal here today. Our goal here today is to speak with council and members for the potential opportunity of diverting the municipality's leaf and yard waste from its current arrangement with the city of Peterborough and the county of Peterborough, to have that material diverted to our farm for use and processing as an agricultural soil amendment. I believe you have control of the slides, if you wouldn't mind scrolling through to the next one. So just a little bit of background for those that don't know myself or our farm. We're a 6th generation farmer. We farm 500 acres of mixed operations, corn, soybeans, oats, and wheat on Sharp Line. Myself, I'm a past professor of food and farming program at Durham College. I'm also quite involved here in the local community. I'm the treasurer of the Millbrook Agricultural Society, as well as the treasurer for the Millbrook Figure Skating Club. I also coach one of the local hockey teams here. I myself am a serial entrepreneur. I co-founded a company called Devron UAS Corp, a publicly traded company out of Toronto that was focused on precision agriculture using primarily drone technology, but also other activities such as soil sampling. Previous to that, my primary roles were related to aviation-related businesses across Ontario primarily, and that includes an aircraft brokerage and a freight training school. Next slide, please. This is a picture of our farm here atop a 100-foot silo that used to be located here on the property. We're in the beautiful rolling hills of Cavan. Next slide. My journey starts here. So a little bit of background as to why we're looking to pursue this opportunity. This is a picture of my son, and this was a project put on by the Ontario Soil and Crop Association called Soil Your Undies. And the project involved burying a pair of white underwear in the ground, leaving them for 2 months, and then returning to the scene to see what microbe activity had happened to those underwear. Much to my chagrin, the underwear were still primarily intact. And so my journey onto soil health and what we can do to help improve the soil here on our farm and in the community started here when we realized that our soils needed some attention. Next slide. So why do we care as farmers and members of this community? It's estimated that the normal levels of carbon in cultivated soils around the world have been reduced by 50 to 70% worldwide. In North America here, just in the last 100 years, we've seen a decline of those soil organic matters by over 50%. And even here locally in Ontario, 82% of agricultural lands are seeing a decrease in their soil organic matter year over year. And these are primarily through activities such as tillage, where carbon materials are exposed to the air, they're oxidized, and these make the soils more vulnerable to erosion, wind, and rain events. Next slide, please. So our goals here on the farm are to try to improve our soils. And we started looking at all the different ways that we could do that specific to our farm. And one of the things that we've decided that we could do here on the farm itself is create some value adds from existing sources that exist. And that's converting things like forest residues and organic waste materials into soil amendments that we could then use to apply to our lands. And we're also looking at different ways of building that organic matter through different activities such as rotations and the use of cover crops. We also started looking at other off-farm sources of organic matter and where we could attain those at a reasonable cost and within the regulations that currently exist to be able to apply materials to our land. These would be things such as municipal waste diversion, and we identified two items in particular, leaf and yard waste being the primary topic of discussion here, organics as well as biosolids. Next slide. So some practices that we do on our farm that are different than perhaps some of the other farms. The use of technology plays a big role in what we do. Taking products like fertilizer, crop protection, pest control, and only applying them in areas of the field that require it. This is an example of a nutrient applicator that's feeding the crop during the season. So rather than putting the same amount of fertilizer down on every single acre, we'll actually fields with a drone, use that technology to then write a prescription, and then have a machine such as this one that uses GPS enabled technologies to apply those nutrients in a variable rate fashion across a field, only feeding those plants that require those nutrients and not feeding those that don't have the potential to reach their maximum yield potential. Next slide, please. Another practice that we employ here on our farm is the use of cover crops. That's creating an environment where you have living root structures at all times of the year. Things like bacteria and fungi require those living root structures in order to survive. And so as a crop starts to die down in the fall, there's another crop that's growing in the shadows of that dying crop, which will provide those nutrients and allow those microbes to continue to live on through the winter months as well. Next slide. So what we're looking to do with the municipality's leaf and yard waste is receiving the material here at our farm and then putting it through a composting process where we break down that material into a usable aggregate that we can then apply to our fields. So these are pictures of what we've been doing here on the farm for the past year. Leaf and Yard comes to a reception area here at the farm, and you see the pictures of the leaf and yard bags there. We then take those materials and put them through a giant grinder, and they exit that grinder looking partially like a soil material. They're all ground into fine particles, and then we then store that material in our fields, rotating and watering and going through the appropriate measures required to convert that material over the course of about a year until it's a nice fine soil. And from that point, we would then field apply those materials on our farm. Next slide. So there's certainly quite a few benefits from this project. The first are environmental. So we're helping to decarbonize the atmosphere by taking these materials and applying them to the soil and incorporating them into the soil as part of our agricultural practices. We're diverting municipal waste that would typically end up in a landfill anyway. The materials that are currently being diverted to the city or the county of Peterborough are going through the same process, but are often still ending in the landfill. We're looking to improve local soil quality here in the township. By applying these materials to our soil, we're improving the organic matter, and that also helps increase things like farm leaching and runoff. By increasing the organic matter, we have a higher retention of water and nutrients in the soil, and that reduces the amount of materials that are diverted or get run off when we have large rain events or through snowmelt. There's also economic benefits. So we're creating a high value product from waste materials. There is some fertility benefits to the materials that we are applying to the land. And we're looking to assist the township in capital savings as well. So by diverting those materials here to our farm, we're hoping to have a cost savings to the township long term. There's also social benefits through local job creation. It takes people, time, resources to put that material from a leaf and yard bag directly to the soil. And obviously we're looking for local collaborations as well and local solutions. Next slide. So just a bit of background as to what we've undergone to date. Back in January 2019, we met with Peterborough County's Waste Management Division to talk about this solution and working directly with some of the municipalities that would be interested in participating. In March of 2019, we met with leadership of the Peterborough County. In March 2019 as well, we also secured some IRAP funding to conduct a one-year feasibility study, not only around the use of this material, but also converting some other waste materials into usable agriculture soil amendments. In September 2019, we hired 2 innovation and infrastructure leads to conduct that feasibility study for us. In October 2019, we met with the Township of Cavan Monaghan's staff to talk about the possibility of undergoing a pilot project related to receiving the leaf and yard waste. And that same fall in 2019, we did receive 2 deliveries of leaf and yard waste from the township, where we diverted a truck that would have normally gone the course to the county and brought them here to our farm. And that was required in order for us to then be able to have an inspection from the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks to inspect the facility and our processes. And we did have an individual from the MECP come out to the farm in December, and following that, we received an approval under those regulations 101-94 for the reception of the materials, for the processing of the materials. Further to that, in February 2020, we received approval from OMAFRA, which is the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Foreign and Rural Affairs, for the storage of that material in our fields, as well as the application. So there was 2 processes that we had to undergo in order to receive, process, store, and then field apply that material to our fields. In spring 2020, with the onset of COVID, we elected to continue with the pilot basis in receiving the leaf and yard waste at no cost here on the farm and process that material and continue to compost that as we speak here. Next slide. So timelines and goals, next steps for us in terms of working with the township. I think a good next step would be an invitation to all council members who would be interested in coming to our site and visiting our facilities and touring what we've undergone to date. Our goal would be to secure a long-term relationship with the township for the diversion of leaf and yard waste materials here to the farm. And what we're proposing is a $30 plus HST per ton tipping fee, essentially, for the receipt of those materials delivered to our designated receiving sites here on the farm. Next slide. So that concludes my presentation and my portion. Thank you very much for hearing us. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer any of those for you now.
All right, very good. Thank you, Norm. Do we have any questions from members of council? Deputy Mayor Graham.
Hi, and through you, Mayor. Just thanks, Norm, for the delegation. I would urge anyone who hasn't had the opportunity to go to Norm's farm to see all the things that are going on there. This is just, sort of one sort of glimpse into the amount of projects and the environmental consciousness and the technologies that Norm's working on with regards to, improving the soil quality, but also, much larger scale sort of environmental improvement efforts that are really sort of modernizing the merging of agriculture and technology, and it's really fascinating stuff. And I can't say that I can't support what you're doing, Norm, enough. And I definitely would be happy to make the motion to direct staff to further investigate some of the things that you've alluded to here. If wait for other comments from councilors to do that, but you have that motion, Mayor.
Very good. Okay, so I won't seek a second. We'll just do the comments, and then Deputy Mayor, I'll come back to you.
Very good.
Okay, questions from members of council? Councillor Moore. Sorry, you're still muted, Councillor Moore. There you go.
Through you, Chair. Norm, this is an excellent idea. I totally agree with Deputy Graham. Just eventually, will this go on to help to be used on other farms locally as to benefit their properties as well, or will this always just be on your farm?
Norm?
It could, Councillor Moore. The challenge right now is that there just isn't the volume. So just to give you an example of the deliveries that we received in the fall and this past spring, we're estimating approximately 13 to 15 tons of material that were received as leaf and yard waste. And that really represents a very small fraction of materials that we would be applying to our land, over 500 acres. Through the OMAFRA and the NASM plan, we actually have the ability to apply upwards of 20 tons per acre annually. So there's really not a lot of material to go around, for lack of a better word.
Okay, I understand that. That makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Councillor Huntley?
Thank you, Mayor. And through you to Norm, you actually just answered my one question, which is what is the capacity that you could handle there if there was any restrictions on it? Thanks for clearing that up.
We could handle upwards of 10,000 tons of material, and if we were to pursue a longer term relationship with the county to receive all of their material, we would certainly have the capacity here locally to handle it on our farm. And short of that, yes, we would be interested in sharing it or selling it to neighboring farms if that opportunity arose.
That's great. And yeah, I echo Deputy Mayor Graham's views on this. I think it's a fantastic job you guys are doing out there.
Excellent. Any further questions, comments from members of council? Seeing none, I think with regards to the tour, I'll leave that up to individual councillors to contact Norm directly. Norm, I'll be in touch to do a tour. It's fantastic work that you're doing, and I'm excited to see it. So I'll certainly call you to set something up at your convenience. Deputy Mayor Graham, I know you're going to bring forward motion. One part within your motion, if I could ask you to address, is as part of the consultation with staff, is a resolution to work towards understanding and encouraging lands that are zoned as agriculture, that they have the ability to be taking on the leaf and yard waste for soil nutrient management. I think it's a new area, and when you get into these new areas, sometimes there's gaps within your official plan or your zoning, and I would like to see that this is something that's encouraged within our community, and that the process of a rezoning or official plan amendment or any of those don't become a hindrance to the process. So as long as that's part of the of your motion, it just doesn't need to be specific. It's just more that that's managed, and there's got to be some wording.
No problem.
Okay, definitely
Makes sense. Yeah, so I was just, my motion would be to direct staff to work with Norm in exploring a further commitment with regards to leaf and yard waste materials, and that the utilization and technologies that are being explored here be also reviewed to be considered as covered within or permitted within an agricultural zone properties. I think that's what encompasses what the mayor is looking for. Clerk, if that works for you.
That is sufficient.
Excellent. Very good. Okay, we got a mover from Deputy Mayor Graham, second. I see Councillor Huntley. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is carried. Norm, thank you very much. It's fantastic to see the innovation that you're coming out with on your farm. It's great to see. Keep up the great work, and you'll be meeting with staff to go through to continue this process. And I'm certain you'll be meeting with the counselors at various stages to see your on-farm operations. Thanks again for bringing forward the delegation, and wish you the best of luck in success.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone, and appreciate the time, and we look forward to working with you.
Wonderful. Very good. All right, Madam Clerk, do you want a motion just to receive that delegation, or is that covered off where we're good?
I think we're okay with direction.
Okay, excellent. Okay, moving along, then item 10.1, minutes of the regular council meeting held August 4th, 2020. Motion to adopt those minutes. Moved by Deputy Mayor Graham, second by Councillor Huntley. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed. There is no minutes from committees and boards, so we'll move right along to our report section. Item 12.1, Report Finance 2020-19 to -2018 to 2020 actual to budget comparison to July 31st, 2020. Ms. Pope, you put a lot of work into this report. Before we even get started, thank you.
Thank you, Council. I have before you a comparison between 2018, 2019, and 2020. The attachment provides the details of the comparison between the years. This was a unique report because normally when you're comparing previous fiscal years, it shows you in our financial system right up until the end of the year. So we did have to extrapolate to be able to stop the information at July 31st, but that is what is presented before you as requested when I presented the last two actual to budget reports. So I'm happy to present that to you today.
Very good. Councillor Huntley.
Through you, Chair, I also thank you very much, Ms. Pope. I really appreciate the view that we have here. And to me, it tells us a lot more of a story, and it gives us a lot more information on, kind of what we're looking at, and definitely helps us with our decisions and our questions. So thank you.
Questions from members of council? Deputy Mayor Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, Ms. Pope, just a question with regards to the, sort of the ongoing deficit or increasing expenditures with regards to our solar operations. I think we talked about this back at budget time last year, but just curious if, I know this is not a net reflection of what the revenues are, but I'm just curious if there's or maybe you can report back to just in an email or something, just letting us know what the actual revenue from the solar operations are, and in relation to, the increasing costs associated with, I'm assuming that's just a byproduct of aging infrastructure or aging equipment with regards to our solar investment.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Graham. You are correct. The information here is actually showing a full expenditure. So it's showing the loan and then also the disposal fund revenue transfer. It's part and why when we pull partway through a year, you're getting part of the picture. So the full expense side is there. However, the revenues are only reported up to July 31st. So of course, we would expect that the revenues would continue now until the end of the year, which would bring it into a positive format. But I would be happy to follow up with council and provide them a detailed listing of what that looks like on the back end. But you are correct that you're seeing a full expenditure side and then the revenue side, because it's not booked in until it's actually earned. We can't report right now from August to December.
No problem. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. Further questions from our other members of council? I had the same question and it was well answered. Thank you. Okay. Motion then from council to receive the report and accept the recommendation, with a big thank you to Ms. Pope for all the extra work that went into that obviously did the job. Thank you. I got a mover from Councillor Huntley, second by Councillor Moore. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes. Motion is carried. Sorry, just a sidetrack. I can hear the background noise. I don't hear the background noise in my room. There it is again. I don't hear it in the room, but I hear it. I've been trying to mute various people. There it is.
Is that Cindy speaking?
Is it in your office, maybe, Kimberly?
Let me just check. Hold on a second.
Oh, maybe.
I was thinking Cindy.
Did that
Definitely
fix
not
it
in
at
our
all?
office. We're extremely quiet in here.
Did that fix it at all?
Okay. All right, very good. No, I
That
was
better?
muting.
Okay.
I was trying to mute everybody, and before you know it, everybody's muted and we've got a silent council meeting. But
Yep.
okay, I think we're back in business. We're good.
Wonderful.
Moving along, our next report is the COVID COVID-19 update number 3, waiving of penalty interest charges and loss of revenues, April 1st to August 31st. Ms. Pope, back to you.
Thank you. Council, I have before you for information purposes our third update on COVID-19. We are trying to bring forward to you the changes that have occurred since the last report. This is a consolidated report showing you the operating costs and pressures to date, amounting to $302,875. And if we just scroll down to the second page under financial impact, you'll see that that's made up of $103,257 on penalty and interest charges, approximately almost $18,000 on water wastewater penalty fees, approximately $68,000 in parks and facilities rental revenue losses. And then we have some operating costs that are being charged to our emergency fund number 77 at about $114,000. We've also just received the Safe Restart Phase 1 funding of $217,000. That was allocated based on, per household. However, the next phase 2, will be based on applications where we feel that perhaps the funding is not meeting the pressures that we've experienced. So based on this funding, we're looking at approximately $302,875,000 that will be covered under this first phase of $217,000. So my suggestion would be then on phase 2 report, we would put in any additional financial impacts that we experience between now and then and put in an application, which is due by October 30th. The one thing I want to bring to your attention in this particular report is our previous reports were recommending to continue waiving the late payment fees, interest and penalty right up until August the 31st. This particular report suggests, because we're not open as of yet, to continue with anything else for the current year. That would be any 2020 taxes, any water, wastewater in the 2020 year, and anything else that's been billed in 2020. However, I do have in this report a recommendation to not waive the previous year arrears. So that's any taxes that were standing as of December 31st, 2019, and to start to begin charging our interest fees for those services. So that is new, and I wanted to highlight that to council. I did do a quick survey amongst municipalities and found between June 30th and September 1st that the other municipalities were starting to charge these fees. Some are actually charging on current and past year, and some are just doing past year at this time. North Kawartha has just recently changed one of their decisions. They were originally going to charge everything as of August the 1st, and they've decided to waive all fees for the year 2020, and therefore they are the first municipality we're aware of that is going to start charging penalty and interest not until 2021. So I just wanted you to have all that information before considering this report before you.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Pope. Questions from members of council? The one issue that I was going to raise with regards to the different dates, I think just for simplicity, I recognize that there will be revenues lost. My suggestion would be to continue as is with the waiving of interest until October 31st for all late payments and be consistent. So at that date, it's very clear what is now going to be charged, what's not going to be charged. Concern is those that might be already in arrears. They're going to have some that's not interest free, some that is for another 2 months. And we're certainly going to hear from residents that they were not notified that the one portion has already started as of September 1st, and we made the decision on September 8th. I think for simplicity, if we roll it ahead, do everything as of October 31st, we advertise it on our website, we send it out in social media, and we put something in the next edition of the newspaper. I think to get the message out there, at least everybody's been made aware that free, no interest time is up, and they've been provided ample opportunity to adjust their budgets accordingly to either pay in full or be aware that there will be interest started. So that would be my only suggestion, but I look to council for your thoughts or opinions on that. Council? Deputy Mayor Graham?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's there's no need for duplicitous dates. I think it sends a clear message that, with regards to, one point of communication to get there. So I don't have a problem with that. I would recuse myself from any considerations or directions for staff as to how to communicate, given my proximity to the local newspaper, obviously. But so I would recuse myself from that part of the conversation. But with regards to the simplicities from a date standpoint, you have my full support in doing that. I had a separate question, but if you want to go to other councilors to comment on that adjustment, I can wait.
Go ahead. I didn't have any hands.
Okay. Just with Kimberly, with regards to the restart funding, great news. I hope the check clears and we have those funds. What restrictions are on this sort of phase one funding? I know you've outlined in the report that it's specific to operating costs and lost revenues, et cetera. Are there specific things within the outlined lost penalties or lost revenues that you're talking about that don't or aren't eligible for said funds?
Through you, Mayor, or sorry, through the Mayor to Councillor Graham, or Deputy Mayor, I'm sorry. With
problem.
regards to the safe restart phasing, phase one was actually just an allocation base for everyone to receive at a particular time, just to get the funding out there. Phase two is where the restrictions are going to come into place. We have yet to see the application to review it in detail. They are referencing offsetting operating costs and loss of revenues at this time in any of the communication we've received to date. So I don't have all the details for phase two. Phase one, though, was basically allocation based. And so when I report on phase two, I'll have to indicate all of the fees, the fact that we used the 217,000 towards fees to date. Here's the leftover balances. We'll obviously have additional penalty and interest charges that will be added to this list by the time we hit October 30th. So I don't exactly have all that information. I do know things like, which I report, the gaming casino revenue loss. That isn't a regular property tax revenue, and it's sort of surplus to go off to offset other operating costs. Something like that would not be allowed to be included because it's not part of a normal municipal budget. However, regular operating user fees, etc. To my knowledge to date, they are including all of those items at this time.
So just to clarify, Mayor, so then with regards to the phase one funding, there are very little in the way of restrictions, but we in TBD with regards to phase two. In that light, okay, I think that's sufficient for my question right now. Thank you very much.
Very good. Just a question, Ms. Pope. If council does proceed with the direction that I was suggesting, currently this report is just for information, and we do already have, I know, a motion. I don't know whether we have a bylaw in place with regards to the excusing of interest until the end of August. Do you need us to repeal a bylaw, or do you need us just to make a new motion extending that time until the end of October?
There's no official, well, actually, I should refer that to the clerk, because the bylaw or the original direction of council that came out in March when we originally shut down to waive the late payment penalties. That's if we're going to extend it any further, the last report had extended it to August 31st. So my suggestion would be to extend it to include October 31st. And that way, as of November 1st, we could begin charging all fees.
Okay, very good. I believe the clerk is in support of that direction.
Yes, there was not a bylaw, that is correct. And the original motion was just to provide the CAO and the treasurer direction to be able to waive those penalties. So if we want to extend that to October 31st, I think a motion specifically extending it to October 31st is sufficient.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from members of council? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to suggest a motion. Deputy Mayor Graham will, as he's indicated, recuse himself from the motion component because I'm going to include something specific to newspaper. So I'm looking to the rest of council. I would suggest that council receives the report before us, and second, that we extend the time frame for the interest charges till October 31st, and further that we advertise the interest free and when interest begins on November 1st on our township website, through our social media, as well as the local newspaper. And finally, I'd suggest that we send a letter of appreciation and thanks to the Premier and copy our MPP, Laurie Scott, for the receiving of those funds from the province. That would be my suggested motion if I've got a mover or a seconder. Councillor Belch, moving. Seconder, Councillor Moore. Any discussion? Seeing none, recorded. Madam Clerk, just to clear it, so Deputy Mayor Graham has recused himself from this, so recorded vote, I'm only looking to the 4 members of council.
That's correct. So
Okay.
Councillor Moore,
Sorry, you're muted, Councillor Moore.
Sorry. Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
and Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed.
And Mr. Mayor, just to clarify for Deputy Mayor Graham, we're going to indicate that you've disclosed a pecuniary interest. So
Very
we'll
good.
have that form completed at the end of the meeting.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next item then is the county official plan project status update, planning report 2020-28. Miss Ellis. Now, before we get started on this, there was a very handy link that was provided within there to access all of the previous committee meetings. Which office is talking?
Planning.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Ellis. There was a handy link in there that provided access to all the previous TAC committee meetings, as well as all the minutes for those, as well as all the staff reports that county has completed. And I just want to acknowledge and thank our staff, more specifically Ms. Ellis and Ms. Coulter, on their participation in those meetings. As you go through those minutes, it's identified which municipality is raising their concerns, and I can confidently state that the number of concerns and issues and comments that are being made by our staff outweigh all other municipalities combined. So it speaks volumes to your involvement in it, and I do want to thank you, both yourself, Ms. Ellis, and please pass that along to Ms. Coulter.
I will. Thank you.
Okay, now on to the report. Ms. Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor McFadden. Planning Report 2020-28 is before you today with the recommendation that the report be received for information.
Very good. Questions from members of council? The one concern that I did raise with Ms. Ellis is just that the timeline. Originally, it was to be completed at the county by November of 2019. It's been extended. Provincial policy has continued to change, and there's been various reasons why the process has been delayed. But obviously, the one concern is that the delivery date of this, I believe they're trying to aim for September-ish next year, which is doable. But my concern is if it extends another full year, the discussion on this very important critical document will end up coming in 2022. If that's when it arrives, we'll be right in the midst of an election, of which causes great concern for all staff members when you're trying to proceed with a very critical document, because you'd prefer that it be processed as opposed to being thrown out the window and start fresh when you get a new council. So I know that's certainly a concern that I have. I've been through that process before in 2010. So I'm certain that the county staff is well aware of our timelines. Any other questions or comments from members of staff or council? Seeing none. Well done, Ms. Ellis. Thank you. Motion then to receive that report. Got Deputy Mayor Graham and Councillor Huntley. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed. Once again, Karen, thank you very much, and thanks to Christina.
Thank you. I will certainly pass it along, and we will certainly pass along the message on Thursday morning at our next Technical Advisory Committee meeting that timing is critical and that we will be looking for a draft document soon.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you once again. All right, Ms. Ellis, you're back up again. Next, Planning Report 2020-27, Pristine Homes Part Lot Control Exemption Bylaw Block 131, Plan 45M-256. This is essentially a rubber stamping housekeeping exercise because the foundation is in the ground and it needs to be processed. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor Graham, seconded by Councillor Huntley. Madam Clerk, motion to, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, and motion has passed. Okay, next report, we have Report Planning 2020-29, Jack and Lorna Scriver, severance application B-34-20. Ms. Ellis?
Thank you, Mayor McFadden. Members of Council, Planning Report 2020-29 is presented to you today with the recommendations that the Township of Cavan Monaghan support severance application B-34-20 because it conforms to the Township's official plan, and secondly, that the completed municipal appraisal form be forwarded to the Peterborough County Land Division Department.
Very good. Any questions from members of council? This is more specifically has to do with an easement. Seeing no questions, motion then to receive the report and accept the recommendation. Motion by Councillor Moore, second by Councillor Belch. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
yes,
Councillor Moore,
yes,
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is passed. Next report, Ms. Ellis, item 12.6, report planning 2020-30 Sanford and Simmons severance application B-42-20. Ms. Ellis?
Thank you, Mayor McFadden, members of council. Planning Report 2020-30 is before you today with the recommendations that the Township of Cavan-Monaghan support severance application B-42-20 because it conforms to the township's official plan. Secondly, that the completed municipal appraisal form be forwarded to the Peterborough County Land Division Department. And thirdly, that the following conditions of approval be applied to application B-42-20, being that the lot area be increased to a minimum of 2,100 square meters or 0.52 acres. Secondly, the payment of $1,200 cash in lieu of parkland to the township. And lastly, the rezoning of the severed and retained parcels to the satisfaction of the town.
Very good. Any questions from members of council?
no,
Seeing none, just more of a historical question, Ms. Ellis. Was there a particular reason why these two lots weren't part of the original subdivision application?
To you, Mayor McFadden, and members of council, I really don't know because that plan of subdivision actually happened before I was working for the township. So it could be that it's just based on the limits of the hamlet designation. Really not sure. But with the increase in lot area that we're recommending, it will go beyond the hamlet designation as we know it a little bit, but there is flexibility built into the plan to allow us to do that. So it just makes sense in terms of how the street is laid out in the lot fabric, and there still is enough room should things change in the future and the street get extended. Mr. Hancock has looked at it to make sure that there still is potential for that extension should the situation warrant it.
Okay, very good. Second question just has to do, I recognize that as part of the severance application, I'm under the assumption that a hydro G isn't necessary because that would be required at the building permit stage. Is that a compulsory component of a building permit, or is that up to the discretion of the township? And the only reason I ask is just historically there's been issues with a lack of water in that particular area, and I didn't know whether that would be part of a future application if a home came forward.
Through you, Mayor McFadden, to members of council as well. So you do, under our official plan policy, you can ask for hydrogeological assessment at the time of a severance application. We have not asked for one in this case. It would probably not be required at the time of building permit application. I know why you are of the understanding that there are water issues in this particular area of the township. I've also thought that, so we did some follow-up with a well driller back when they did the preliminary severance inquiry, and apparently there is lots of water there. It's just that the wells are all very shallow.
Oh.
So we are aware that there are some tanks in the ground in that particular subdivision, but we didn't have enough information to make them do a hydrogeological assessment for the two lots. But
Okay.
if it's something that council wishes, we can certainly add that as a condition.
It's not that I want to hold it up. It's just I know there is historical over there. If staff is confident that you've got enough information to proceed with the severance, which I'm sure you are, I'm okay with not doing it. If there is any question or concern being raised, i.e. that another well is going to go dry, I would suggest it be added. So I guess I'm looking back to staff for some direction on it.
To you, Mayor McFadden, and members of council, I'm going to be honest, I am not a hydrogeologist. As I said, we did follow up with a well driller who seemed to indicate there is water in the area. To the best of my knowledge, we haven't had complaints from people in the area about issues with their wells or problems. So I don't have any technical information to tell you today that there is a problem that there has been a problem recently. A hydrogeological assessment is an expensive technical report. That's why we've hesitated in some instances to ask for it. I,
Okay.
this is
I'll
one of
look-
those, this is one of those situations where you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Yeah, I'm not looking to add on a burden onto the individual that's doing the severance. However, I would hate to see them sell a lot that has no water availability on it to an unsuspecting lot purchaser, because then it becomes their problem.
Through you, Mayor McFadden, to members of council, maybe we should add a condition that they obtain some kind of opinion from
I think
looking
you've
at well
got,
records or something that.
I think you've got a valuable roommate right next door there that's going to speak. Mr. Phillips? Oh, and you're muted. There you go.
Good afternoon. I'm not sure if this helps, but just to clarify, even at the building permit stage, we actually, it's not a requirement to show that you have well sustainable to give you fresh water as a, oddly enough, as a building permit requirement, because you can technically have a holding tank in your basement and fill it. And in the end, you just need to actually occupy a dwelling. You just need potable water. So it's just so you know, just in your decision moving forward, it's not a requirement for building permit to have water on that site.
Okay.
Doesn't help a lot, but just for more information.
Yeah, in light of that, we're not proceeding down the avenue necessarily of a building permit, whatnot. I'm feeling a little uncomfortable with this, knowing the history of that general area. Would it be appropriate, rather than making a decision on this, could we defer this till the next meeting to come back, providing staff with an opportunity to maybe bring back some more valuable information? If at that time we determine a hydro G is going to be required, we could do it at that point. Is that an option, Ms. Ellis?
Through you, Mayor McFadden, yes, we can certainly look into that. I know we do have some file materials from the original subdivisions, so it may be worthwhile having a look at those and engaging Mr. Hancock or Mr. Grigger together with Mr. Phillips and me, and seeing what we can determine from that, and giving you our best advice at that time.
Okay, council, you comfortable with that? Motion to defer this report and bring it back to the next meeting? Councillor Belch? Oh, sorry, I thought there was comment. No, Councillor Huntley? Or we got a motion?
I thought that was a motion and a second.
Okay, motion
Yeah.
then to defer to bring this back to the next meeting. Mover, Councillor Belch, seconder, Councillor Huntley. Any discussion on the motion? Deputy Mayor Graham, I saw you thinking over there.
Yes, through you, Mayor. I understand the sentiment and I think it's well intentioned. I just wonder if this is an instance where we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves and maybe overreaching with regards to maybe being too considerate. Just because of what Mr. Phillips contributed to the conversation, that it's actually not required. You could utilize the cistern technology. I know that would probably, I was more wondering if there were conditions that could be applied on a condition of sale, that the water issues be addressed there, but that's again outside of our jurisdiction. So that's the only thing. I understand and I think it's well intentioned. I just wonder if, if there was a simple way that which we could make sure that this was a condition or that information was going to be shared, but with regards to the cistern technology, maybe that's, a viable alternative, not requiring anything to do with a hydro G. So whether it would be required, it wouldn't be, and it would be fruitless to do that. But anyways, that's all I was considering.
Okay, I think by deferring it for the cycle, which is 2 weeks, I think it'll give staff an opportunity to go back and take a look at some of the information and probably come back with a proposed solution that will identify and address our concerns. So that.
Yep.
I think-
Okay, I'm fine.
Councillor Moore.
I can support that motion. Yep.
Councillor Moore.
I was just going to agree with Deputy Mayor Graham. I kind of think we're looking for trouble we don't need to look for, when everybody's saying that the things are okay the way they are. I hate to go digging up a problem for a person if we don't need to.
Yeah, no, and it's certainly not my intention to add on additional studies if they're not required. My biggest concern in all of this would be the poor landowner that buys a lot to put a home on. There is no water, and the municipality has historical records of a shortage of water in the area. That wouldn't reflect well on any of us, and I wouldn't want to be that individual that just purchased a lot that now needs to disclose it when they try and resell it. So that's the only thing that I'm trying to address. And I haven't requested it on any other lots that I'm aware of a water shortage, but there is an issue in that general area over there that hopefully staff can come back with something for us for further consideration in 2 weeks to to alleviate those, that's all. Okay, so we've got a motion on the floor, moved by Councillor Belch, seconded by Councillor Huntley. Madam Clerk, motion, recorded vote.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes. And then moving along, next report, planning 2020-31. It's the same reports, the other lot. Motion to defer till the next meeting. Mover. Councillor Huntley, second by Deputy Mayor Graham. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed. Thank you, Ms. Ellis. That was a lot of reports right in a row. Next up, we have item 12.8, Report Public Works 2020-18, Water Wastewater Master Servicing Study, RFP. Mr. Hancock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to council, the recommendation before you are, number one, that council authorize staff to retain the professional consulting services of RV Anderson Associates Limited for the completion of water wastewater master servicing study in the amount of $149,958.85, plus net municipal HST in the amount of $2,639.28. The upset amount would be $167,857.94, which includes a 10% contingency in the amount of $15,259.82 for additional work that may be required. And number two, the council pre-approved the amount of $118,000 in the 2021 water wastewater capital budget to complete this project and provide funding. And the last note in this is funds are to be provided through the development charges. Just as a background to for council, when we did the development charges update, we had made provisions for in water and wastewater a total amount under development charges that we are collecting of $250,000 for this study. So it has been included in the development charges study, and we are collecting presently for that. So that is some background. It's noted in the recommendation, RVA, the review was completed by 3 staff members, Evan Grieger, Kyle Phillips, and myself. Just a personal thank you to Evan Grieger, because he again has done a lot of work on the preparation of this request and on working through the addendums to the point of this final report. So just to note that he did do a lot of work on this. We are trying to partner this with the employment lands. We are looking at areas as far as 115 and County Road 10 for the options of servicing, and particularly on the both east and west side of County Road 10 through the lands that are recognized under the present official plan. The process will be to look at our plant capacities and our wells and see what can be done with our existing infrastructure, and then expand to that to see whether their options are available and recommendations they would come back with. And in noting and recommending RVA, we consider RV Anderson one of the best consultants in the province. We worked with them through the plant expansion. We worked through the construction of the standpipe, even though we got the color a little off. The council straightened us out on that fact. And the linear pipes, of course, up the hill. So I think they did a great job for us in the past, and we are recommending to use them going forward, particularly with their history with us and the professional people that are with the firm. So that's before you for consideration.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Hancock. Over and out from Flight Tower. Any questions from members of council?
I will get some other earphones if they buy them for me.
Thanks for the clarification that the funds, both those that have already been allocated as well as the pre-approval, are all coming from specifically water wastewater development charges that have already been levied specifically for that purpose. I know that answered a couple councilors' questions that were had raised earlier with yourself. Any other questions from members of council? Seeing none. One part that I did want to emphasize is that I consider all alternatives. There might be an opportunity to expand the current system and continue out this way, but I think it definitely has to be emphasized that there may be other opportunities for standalone systems and on-site or close proximity to water wells that may pose other alternatives. So I just ask that all alternatives be considered as part of this review.
For sure.
Any other questions, members of council? If not, motion then to receive this report and accept the recommendation. Deputy Mayor Graham moves it and Councillor Moore second. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes,
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed. Congratulations, Wayne. You flew right through that one.
Thank you very much. That's probably a first.
Our next report is item 12.9, Building 2020-03, Building Inspector Appointment Bylaw. Mr. Phillips.
Good afternoon. The recommendation for the report before you is that council appoint Jonathan Reese as a building inspector for the township of Cavan Monaghan.
Very good. Any questions from members of council? Councillor Huntley.
Through you, Chair, and to Mr. Phillips, I'm curious about financial impact. No financial impact at this time. So we have a volunteer building inspector now?
Through you, Chair, no, he's already been hired, so we've already financially planned for him. This is just the council appointment. It's just kind of a paperwork thing to recognize him as an inspector. He has been with us for a couple months now on a 2-year contract. So the report doesn't have a financial impact to it. He does.
All right. All right, then I'll move the report.
Very good. Motion to receive the report and accept the recommendation. We got a mover, Councillor Huntley, a seconder to Deputy Mayor Graham. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Moore,
yes,
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes. Motion is approved.
Thank
We
you.
didn't even have Mr. Reese come on here so that we could have a trivia questions for him to ensure that he's qualified.
He's a lot bigger than me and Cindy are sharing already, so we had no room.
All right, well done. Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Our next report is report number 12. It's item 12.10, Report Corporate Services 2020-17, Cavan Monaghan Task Force on Policing. Ms. Arthurs.
Okay, the recommendation is that council approve the terms of reference for the Cavan Monaghan Task Force on Policing. Number 2, that council appoint Mayor McFadden as the chair on the task force and 1 other additional council member to the task force. And number 3, that council direct staff to recruit for 4 additional members to fulfill the required complement of the task force.
Very good. Question from members of council? Volunteers for number 2? If not, I'll just pick. I noticed nobody's putting their hands up. Okay, we have Councillor Moore is interested.
no, well,
No.
I'm just, question,
Okay, Councillor Moore.
how involved is this task force?
I would expect there be a lot of work up front on some reading and review of other current practices and understanding of what it is that we're trying to get from our policing. And I would imagine that as it indicates, it'll be all wrapped up by March. But I'd expect at the most a meeting every couple of weeks at the most to start, and then I would expect it to slow down. Councillor Huntley?
I'll volunteer for that task force if you want.
Okay, there's one. All right, if council is happy with Councillor Huntley being the alternative for number 2, we can fill in that blank. Any other questions from members of council? Nope, seeing none. Okay, motion then to receive the report, accept the recommendation with item number 2 being that additional council member will be Councillor Huntley. Deputy Mayor Graham will move it. Seconder, Councillor Belch. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes,
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is passed. Our next report is Corporate Services 2020-18 Ward Boundary Review, something near and dear to the heart of Ms. Arthurs. The floor is yours.
The recommendation is that council direct staff to request a formal proposal from Watson and Associates Economists Limited in association with Dr. Robert J. Williams to conduct a ward boundary review for the Township of Cabot-Monaghan in preparation for the 2022 municipal election.
Sounds like a very clerk-oriented motion, very detailed. Well done. Questions from members of council? My one addition to your detailed motion would be that we add to that there's consideration as one of the options for the ward boundaries, that there's consideration for an alignment with the planning documents that we have. In other words, it's confusing when your planning documents have a certain boundary relative, for example, to Millbrook, and it's different than what our voting boundary is. And I think it needs to take into consideration the growth that's being proposed for the area so we can do it once as opposed to having to revisit this every time there's a new phase of a subdivision. So that'd be my only request, that there'd be some consideration for ward boundaries to align with planning as part of this proposal. Council's okay with that addition? Very good. Matthew, you there?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you were frozen. I was looking around. I see nothing. Okay.
Just still.
We got a pretty chill council today. Excellent. Everybody's frozen, but we're all still here. Councillor Moore.
Yeah, just the boundaries. Is that just going to take in the new subdivision, or is that going to take in from County Road, from 115 and 10 straight right through the village? Does anybody have any idea there what's happening?
My
sure?
suggestion, and that's why I added that last part in, is to review the planning documents that are going to be taking into consideration the maps that's being considered for the official plan amendments and et cetera. So it would take into consideration future development to try and align it as best they can. So it's not going to simply, in my interpretation, it wouldn't simply be phase one of the 345 homes, because then you're going to be faced with the next 800 and keep on moving it. So in other words, encompass the area where we see the future growth that's already been designated and any particular lands around there now as part of this review, if they're going to stick with a ward system. Madam Clerk or Miss Ellis, if you're still available, is anything further?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would just add, so Councillor Moore is clear, the entire ward boundary review will definitely look at all of Cabot-Monaghan as a whole and look at the distribution of those wards and try to even them out a little more than they are, and definitely some additional attention to the development that's going to occur in Millbrook to try to align those boundaries with the planning documentation.
Thank you.
But rest assured, I would make the assumption that one of the options is going to be that there would be no wards, in which case there would be a realignment of a particular boundaries. But I just want to make sure that as one of the options, that we're not going to be stuck in this leapfrogging. If we stick with a ward, that we're not going to be stuck just only identifying the current built out area and then continually having to revisit this ward one. So I'm under the assumption one is going to be at large across the entire municipality. That was an assumption because it was brought forward last time too.
So that would be for the whole town at large.
That was one of the options that was brought forward last time. I would expect it would be brought forward again as one of the options. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions from members of council? Seeing none, motion then to receive the report and accept that recommendation with the addition of the consideration for ward boundaries to align with our planning documents. Deputy Mayor Graham. Second, Councillor Huntley. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Good discussion.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Councillor Huntley, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem, Chair. I was just looking through the document though, but it does say the population projections based on, or sorry, where it is, to maintain equitable representation of the population to extend possible over the next 3 election cycles. So the part that you're adding, the amendment you're adding, I think is actually already covered in kind of the guidelines on how it gets set up. I don't know whether the clerk can comment on that or not.
For you, Mr. Mayor, we haven't had any specific conversations with regard to that. So I think Mr. Mayor is just asking that we clarify that in our discussions when they provide the proposal so that they're aware of the changes and what is occurring right now with our planning documentation, knowing that we're not in line at this time.
Yeah, and my point specifically on that was to tie back that election cycle back to the actual planning documents, the two, so those are in sync over the next cycle of the next 3 or however long it is. That was more, it wasn't explicitly stated. I just wanted to ensure that we were all on the same page. Deputy Mayor Graham, did you have a question?
Nope.
No, okay, sorry. Any further questions before we oh, Councillor Moore?
Just one. Will we discuss this again before it's finalized?
Oh, it's a whole public process. All we're doing at this point is just going out to get a proposal to come
Okay.
back, and then that's going to come back for approval, and then there will be a public process, and that's when Alana's Dog and Pony Show starts throughout the township. We've done this before.
Okay.
Very good. Any further questions? Okay. The advantage this time is Alana will be assisted by the consultant that she's proposing. Okay, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed.
Thank you.
You are very welcome, Ms. Arthurs. You've been waiting for that one. Our next report, item 12.12, report CIO Parks and Facilities 2020-04 Cabin Monaghan Community Center Outdoor Fitness Project. Chris Allison, are you there? I might have to unmute you. Just a second.
Mr. Mayor, he should be able to unmute himself as he is a panelist.
Okay, there we go.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, loud and clear.
Okay, so this report is presented to you with the following recommendations. One, the council authorizes, in addition to the Cabin Monaghan Community Center, with the installation of an outdoor fitness area located in conjunction with the existing playground structure and surrounding concrete boardwalk. Two, the council send a letter thanking the Orange Lodge Millbrook branch for its legacy fund contribution to the community. I would like to add to this recommendation that council add to the letter that a steel label will be affixed to each piece of equipment acknowledging their generous donation.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Allison. Recognizing it's your first report before council, I want to thank you. If the rest of staff could take a lesson from you, you came forward offering us $50,000. No other staff member ever does that. They always ask for money, and you're offering us $50,000. So please pass along how you did it to the other staff. It would be appreciated. You have questions from members of council?
We had actually, it was Mr. Pac-Man and Miss War from the Orange Lodge and Millbrook branch actually approached staff about donating to promote the health and well-being of the community.
It was fantastic.
So they brought it to us. It was a little easier.
Well, great job. That's a really good news story. Thank you. Questions from members of council? How can you say no? All right. Excellent. Deputy Mayor Graham?
I was just going to move the report and accept all three of Chris's recommendations with thanks, obviously, to the Pac-Man family and the War family.
Fantastic. Excellent. Seconder? Councillor Huntley. Any further discussion on the report? A sincere thank you from all of us, as Deputy Mayor has outlined. A sincere thank you to the families. It's greatly appreciated, and the money will certainly be put to good use. And I can assure you that the community will certainly appreciate the use of that new equipment. So, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Oh, you're muted.
Yes.
Councillor Moore.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed. Once again, thank you, Mr. Allison.
Thank you.
Our next up is item 12.13, report CIO 2020 report and okay. Report and capital project status. Miss Hurley, 1 second. Miss Hurley, I'm going to.
Good afternoon, Council.
Whoa.
Whoa.
1 second.
Let me just ask if there's any questions. Good afternoon, Council. The report is before you today, the report for capital projects status update. If you have any questions, I'm certainly here to respond to your questions.
Or I can turn that. Hold on. No.
Why don't I just, through you, Mayor? Why don't we just let you guys work out the echo? Just maybe give a nod and acknowledge. So anyways, through you, Mayor, with regards to this report, I supported an earlier motion that I wanted to make an amendment. So I want to pass a motion to make an amendment to the previous motion. Motion R1506-2011 be amended, removing that, and that council direct staff to research a comprehensive COVID-19 recovery strategy and report back to council. And the reason for my motion with regards to that amendment is just with regards to the financial report that we've seen and all that we've done with regards to waiving the fees, in addition to the announcements from the province and the feds with regards to the funding that's available. And our economic development team has been very proactive at trying to connect local businesses with those opportunities for funding. But also with the good work and kudos to PCAD as well for their ongoing support and sort of helping businesses and learn and navigate the ways that they can receive the support. I just feel like there's not much else that we can really, as a small municipality, do. And I wanted to take as many of those things off of staff's plate as we can at this time. So I just want to make that motion.
I can't hear Scott.
You're muted, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Sorry, I just thought you were ignoring me. A very good motion, Deputy Mayor Graham. I am now looking for a seconder. I think everybody's still ignoring me. Second. Oh, Councillor Moore, you're on the second page. Councillor Moore is the seconder. Madam Clerk, can I get a recorded vote?
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion's passed. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other questions with regards to this report? If not, a motion then to receive the report. Deputy Mayor Graham and Councillor Belch. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is passed. Council Committee verbal reports, item 12.14. We didn't have any minutes from any committees, so I'm not sure if there's any updates, but if so, I'll start here. Deputy Mayor Graham, any updates on committees?
No, we are still waiting to schedule the next North Valley Trails Committee meeting. It might be as early as next week. We're just trying to finalize the date, so we'll have more to update then.
Excellent. Councillor Moore,
Nothing at this time.
Councillor Belch,
The only thing that's that I'm just waiting to hear, we're supposed to meet the Ganaraska Board of Directors are supposed to meet sometime in September, but I don't think it's been finalized yet. So just waiting to hear on that.
okay, very good. And Councillor Huntley.
Just a couple things, I guess. We will be starting up the Mr. Hack meetings again this month. So we'll start to get some of the programs that were put on hold for COVID, maybe start rolling those ones out again. And with the BIA, we are having a kind of a BIA social on September 11th at the Legion, with very limited tickets. So if anybody has the invite, please respond. Just because we're trying to keep the numbers down, obviously, for the capacity of the patio, but it's kind of to reconnect the local businesses of the BIA and kick off a $1,000 kind of coupon giveaway that we're going to promote to help promote our businesses downtown as well.
Excellent, very good. Councillor Huntley, can you send that data to the members of council just so we've got it and we can tackle it?
Yeah, I would have expected to be on the list, but I'll forward it out to you.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. Any other questions from members of council? Seeing none, motion then to receive that verbal report. I got Councillor Belch and Deputy Mayor Graham. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed. There is no general business. Any correspondence for information coming forward? Seeing none. I'll move right into bylaws. Item 16.1, bylaw number 2. Oh, hold on. Only the first, second.
You're okay. The deferred motions was just to send to the county. There was no bylaw attached to those.
Okay, so all 3 are valid?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Bylaw number 2020-50 being a bylaw to appoint Jonathan Reese as a building inspector for the Township of Cabmonaghan. And bylaw number 2020-51 being a bylaw to temporarily exempt certain lands with registered plan 45M-256 for the Township of Cabmonaghan from part lot control. And bylaw number 2020-52 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2018 as amended, otherwise known as the Township of Cabmonaghan zoning bylaw. You read it first, second, third time, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal attached thereto. Mover. Deputy Mayor Graham, second by Councillor Huntley. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is passed. There is no unfinished business. Any notices of motion? Seeing none. Confirming bylaw being bylaw number 2020-53, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting held September 8th, 2020, be read a first, second, third time, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal attached thereto. Motion. Deputy Mayor Graham, second. Councillor Moore. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is passed. Upcoming events, we have the Mr. Hack meeting Thursday, September 17th at 9 a.m. And the next Motor Valley Trails Committee meeting is Monday, September 28th at 6 p.m. Both, I'm guessing, are through Zoom, councilors? Deputy Mayor? Yes?
Yeah, the date for the, but it will be held through Zoom. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, motion to adjourn. Councillor Huntley and Deputy Mayor Graham. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
No, just kidding.
So that's a yes?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes. Just so you're aware, 3 clowns and we're stuck in this meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.
Hasta la vista.